Welcome to Therapeutic Intentions Podcast. My name is Stephanie Dingbaum. I am a mental health therapist, and I am so passionate about all things health and wellness, personal development, and empowering others to be their most authentic and best versions of themselves. Here at Therapeutic Intentions, we are all about having intentional and authentic conversations on whole body health, healing practices, mindset, and ways to uplevel your life so you can truly be the best version of you. If you are a woman, a mom, hope to someday be a mom, a healer, or just in a place where you want to start prioritizing yourself and your health, then this podcast is for you. I am so glad you're here. If you're ready, let's get to it. Welcome back, everybody, to Therapeutic Intentions Podcast. It's Stephanie Dingbaum here, and I have Hilary Naab with me today. I'm doing something a little different, so I'm kicking off September. We're getting into spooky season, and I have some fun things planned for the podcast, one of which is a mini series. I'm going to let Hilary introduce herself, but before I do, I just want to give a brief introduction. So I've known Hilary, I'm sure it's been less than a year. I don't know the exact timeline, but I met her through, actually it will be a year because my sister's birthday is in October. I met her through my sister and then got to know her because you're a shamanic healer. And I knew I wanted to access her healing services. I just kept thinking, like, when the time is right, I'll do it. I didn't have a plan. I just knew, like, when I get that divine push, when I get that nudge, then I'll respond to it and I'll set up a session with her. So I finally did this past summer of 2024, and I just have a lot of great things to say about her. She's been just a huge part of my healing journey, and I'm grateful for that. So I'll let her do an introduction for herself, and then we'll kind of get into why we're doing this mini series together.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you for that warm welcome. And hello to your listeners. As Stephanie mentioned, I'm Hilary Naab, and I own Studio Number 7 in Monticello, Iowa, which is where I do a lot of the shamanic healing work, the energy work. I also teach yoga classes, and I have a specialty class, the Violet Flame Akasha, that I teach. But actually, I was thinking about when you were talking, it has been about a year, because usually in October, I offer my energetic protection class because the veil is very thin. And you had reached out about that too. And that reminds me, I have been thinking about offering that again this October. So
yeah, I do remember that. My first class, though, that I did take with you was your
the 24 karat.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we did the vision boards and figuring out our numbers for the year and things like that. Yeah. Well, I think I officially met you in person at my sister's birthday party last year. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Hilary, she does these amazing healing sessions, and I've only done one with her, but I just tell people now, like, she's my go-to shamanic healer. She has this gift that I haven't encountered with other healers before. It's something beautiful. And I did a session with her back in July where you did an Akashic Record reading with me. Before I have you explain what that is, I just want to caveat that with, I feel like when I talk to people we're in rural Eastern Iowa, and I feel like when I talk to people about, like, I had an Akashic Record reading, everyone gives me a blank look, like, you did what now? Because I just feel like around here in the rural parts of the country, people don't really know what that is. So do you want to explain to listeners what that is, what that looks like?
Sure. Yes, we are in rural Iowa. And so I am very well aware of the fact that the work that I do is not of the quote unquote norm, right? But it's very powerful and very transformational. And it's a great honor to do this work in this lifetime and to be connected with beautiful souls like you to really help not just women, but men, children, everyone step fully into their power to live outside of pain body and to really come back into their innate gifts and why they came here. And so with my energetic healing sessions, they combine a lot of my work, which you've talked about, the Akashic Records, going into combining my training as a Reiki Master, my shamanic gifts, womb healing, and so forth. But with the Akashic Records, what we're specifically doing there, what I like to do with clients is I open up that record. And that's essentially, as I explained it to you when you first came, and I do all clients, like the library of Stephanie is the easiest way to sort of bring it down into 3D terms, would to say, okay, I'm going into the library and I'm going to find the book on Stephanie. But and when I open that book.
But not Stephanie's, not, how do I say this? But not Stephanie's like physical lived experience. It's my soul's lived experience. Right?
Yep, exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. So going to find your soul's book, and when we open that, we get access to all the lifetimes that you've lived prior. We get access to ancestral, knowledge, wisdom, wounding. We can get future guidance. We connect fully with higher self. So there's just so much available to us, and we all have the ability to access that every day. It's just, when you've never worked with it, it helps to work with a guide to get you there. But we're in and out of that knowledge on a daily without really knowing we're on a conscious level that we're doing it.
Yeah. It's amazing. If you've never experienced and had your Akashic record read you, it's powerful. I mean, it's hard to explain because, I have no problem explaining it to people that are open to hearing about that, who buy into that, who believe that, but it's really hard to explain to people that are not yet open to it, because that's when I get the blank looks.
It is. And as somebody who does energy healing work, a lot of people understand anything, they kind of know Reiki, and that's kind of the entry level. And then when you start getting into this past life and the shamanism, the journey work, it really, people are like, oh, okay. So what I also just like to say is, we as healers, there's that kind of wrap with, I'll go into tarot, for example. So some people, they'll understand like tarot card readings, and they're like, oh, well, that lady thinks she's psychic and she knows everything, and da-da-da-da-da. And that sort of part of, the witchy world has given us a bad rap, and especially because there's a lot of false light workers out there. There are a lot of black magic. Just like any industry we see, there are people that are here to do that for good, and there are people who are here to do that for profit and not of the light. And so when we talk about that too, it can get a lot layered in that sort of realm. So then when I'm doing my work, it's not like I'm like, oh, okay, Stephanie, like, let's just sit here and I'm going to pull some past life out of my ass. And then, we're just going to like say that that's what you did. You're really coming to me with an intention. We really focus on that. What's your intention? What are you wanting to heal? What's going on in your life right now? And then where can we pull guidance from that? So, in your session, we went into something that, I'm always surprised where we go, right? But higher self always takes us there. And then we get such beautiful guidance, and it's so transformational in the days ahead after the sessions.
Yeah, I would agree. And what I loved about it, and what's really stuck with me since then, we did it back in July, and it probably for a month afterwards, I feel like I was still getting downloads and things were still coming to me from that one session. But what I loved about it, and what you said when we met, was your guides won't show you anything that you're not ready to hear or see. And that was really reassuring. I almost wish I would have known that back when I just started Reiki, because it is intimidating if you've never done it before. It can feel, anything healing wise that's outside of your norm can feel like you'll experience some discomfort. Even though we know discomfort is growth, it can feel uncomfortable. And knowing that just really comforted me and made me feel like, listen, nothing's going to come up that I'm not ready to see or hear. that was very reassuring.
Yeah, I always like to say that because it is absolutely true. And, we can think about trauma, and I'm sure you talk about this a lot with your clients. Trauma doesn't always have to be big T trauma, right? There's little T trauma.
Yeah.
And with little T trauma, those build. And so it's like, you aren't less than because you're not coming to a session because you weren't sexually abused for 12 years as a child. Yeah. Have I had clients like that? Absolutely. And is that something that I can work with and help? Sure. But that doesn't mean anything. You could have had a more what you would consider a little T trauma that's actually built for years and is causing you to stay less than. And that's what I'm here to help you open and release.
That's well said. And I completely agree. I feel like coming to you. So my word of the year was creation from your vision board class, but there was kind of like a sub word for me of the year, and that was authenticity. Like both kept coming to me in that class and even afterwards. And your services, I mean, you said it perfectly, but your services definitely support and help me as I continue to try to rise up as my most authentic version of me, like who I'm authentically aligned and meant to be on this current planet. And your services help with that. I mean, they really support that. I want to transition a little bit. So Hilary and I both, so Hilary got a download months ago that this was after I had asked her to come and do a collab with me on the podcast. She got a download that this collab needed to be like multiple mini collabs. And what's interesting about that is she shared that with me on a day that I had taken a sick day. I was homesick. And it's so beautiful how the days when I either intentionally or unintentionally take a day off, so I'm resting, so I'm in that rest and relaxation state of mind, those are the days when I get the downloads. And it's interesting to me because when I was recently at the Powerhouse Women Conference, they talked about how when you work in rest into your business, those are the times when your intuition, your inner wisdom is at its strongest. And it's so true because those have been the times when I've had, I would say, the biggest downloads for my business. And so I just think it's so ironic, like the day that you reached out to me was the day of rest for me.
Yes, there's so much power in the rest and the reset. And I definitely resonate with that 100%. When I am in that go, 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 and I'm out of that, I don't feel myself. And then, we have a hard time honoring the slowdown, the not doing. But when we do, then it's like, boom, all of these downloads, all this creativity comes to us. And that's where the magic happens. And that's where we really, really can then go forward and give these great messages out to everyone else.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. Hilary had messaged me, was like, I think you had a dream about me that night.
Oh, I'm sure, because I'm always having dreams and sending people messages.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. I think that's really cool. And then you had shared about the dream, but then you were like, I think we need to do this mini series. And I was, yes, let's do it. Like anything around the topic of spiritual health, because my spiritual health has catapulted in the last 5 years, I would say. So anytime I get to talk about it, I mean, truth be told, I am extremely woo-woo, but I will be honest, like I don't like dumb it down, but I bring it down. Like I don't show it nearly as much as what people realize.
Yeah, well, I love that you are, and that's what I think makes you such a great, professional healer in your realm, because you do see the beauty of a holistic approach to healing someone. And we've had those conversations before, but there is something to be said. I think even myself as, energy worker, I have seen a lot of things that would probably put, if I was having that conversation with a normal person on the street, they'd be like, well, she should probably go be put into a psych ward, right?
Yeah.
But when you're here and you're in it and you experience it, it is unexplainable, yet it is so believable because it is the truth, and it is our higher selves pushing all of that along for us. And so it can be really, I think there's beauty in people like us who can take very esoteric words, concepts, experiences, but bring them down to an understandable level and a relatable level and really ground it in. Because trust me, I've been on some real crunchy, like retreats, like where I'm like, oh yeah, this is why nobody takes anybody seriously in this realm. So
yep, I would agree. Yeah, I think we probably all had an experience like that. Yeah, that's interesting. So we're going to do this mini series for the month of September, but we're going to go into some juicy topics, just some topics that, I mean, some woo-woo, but some very much just spiritual based topics around our spiritual health, around up-leveling, around being our most authentic versions of ourselves, what that looks like, habits, things like that. It's really like, we're not going to have it super scripted. It's really like what feels aligned for us. I mean, it's the topics that we're going to be talking about have just been downloads I feel that we've both had since we planned to do this. But I do want to say, since you mentioned it, yes, I'm very much a holistic practitioner, but what I love about finding Hilary, and she's in my neck of the woods, like we're literally a half hour away. I have referred probably 6 clients to Hilary, and my niche is anxiety, depression, self-esteem. I like working with professionals, entrepreneurs, things like that. But what I love is not working in silos with other practitioners. I love when I can refer somebody to Hilary or a dietitian or an integrative practitioner, whoever it might be, and we can all like collaborate and work together for the betterment of that client. And I have found that I've been able to do that. Like I've had a couple clients who I've referred to Hilary, who have taken me up on the offer and have just had amazing experiences. And it's so cool to see them grow spiritually, mentally, emotionally as a result of working with me on their mental health and with Hilary on their soul's journey. I mean, I don't know if you see that, but like,
oh, absolutely.
It's an amazing thing to see that growth and to see like them responding to that nudge. And it didn't come from me. I mean, that desire was given to me from a higher power, but it's so cool to see them respond to that. And then to see the domino effect of all of those, like them coming to me and then coming to you, seeing that domino effect of putting all of that into action, seeing the synchronicities come out in their lives, seeing, just like I said, the growth happen for them. It's such an amazing thing. So there's so much power behind all of us practitioners coming together for the betterment of these individuals. And I know you don't see people as often as I do, Hilary, but like, I'm sure you still see the impact from them accessing like your services and other services in conjunction with your services.
Oh yes, that's my favorite part of this work, is to, it's sort of like being a mom and letting the baby bird fly the nest, right?
Yeah.
You know, so it's, my favorite part is watching the clients that I've worked with grow and come into their power and come into their gifts. And, you know, people who I may have only seen them once, but they're still in my life. You know, I feel like once you come, we're connected, and you show up in my dreams and I'll send you messages like 6 months down the road. That's sort of how it works. And it's always divine timing and spirit led. And I love collaborating as well. Word of mouth is worth its weight in gold. And I appreciate you so much for that. And of course, I'm always referring people to you as well, or to, you know, other people, like you mentioned, we don't have to know it all and do it all. But what we can do is really be authentic in who we are, our gifts, own that, do that, but collaborate with the rest, because it doesn't have to all follow on us.
Yeah, I agree completely. Yeah. And there's so many things that fall under your specialty that I'm in a session sometimes with clients and I so badly want to be like, oh, I wish I had this skill. You need to go see Hilary because what you need, I can't do, but I swear she can. And it's like in that moment, like I so badly just want to help them and heal them. And yeah, it's a beautiful thing when you see them grow. It is very much, I would say like 90% of my clients are a younger version of me, an unhealed version of me, or the version of me that was going through the healing early on. And so it is really cool to see them grow and fly and just take off in their healing journeys.
Oh, yeah. I always say too, clients often mirror us, or whether it's past or even just current themes or collective themes and that when they show up. So it's kind of like, I feel like when I do the work with them, I'm getting just as much healing out of it myself as they are. And it's growth and it's knowledge and it's understanding. We came here to remember. Right. And so we're relearning what we already know, and releasing what we know we don't need.
That is beautiful. Very well said. Please continue to tune in throughout the month of September. We're going to get into some juicy topics and I'm excited about it. I literally have been waiting all month to do this. Truth be told, we didn't record. We're recording at the end of August because I initially told Hilary, like, I'm open. Let's record sometime in August. And she was like, oh, Mercury retrograde might not be a great time to record. And I was naively like, okay, well, that's not going to impact me, but thanks for the heads up type of thing. And then literally, I don't even think it was a week later, maybe 2 weeks later, Mercury retrograde hit. My computer crashed. My phone got hacked. All the things. Every single time in the month of August, I have sat down to record a podcast episode, whether it be a solo or a collab with somebody else, I've had issues. So I literally, last night we were messaging and I'm like, is Mercury retrograde over? Because I am over it. I am freaking over it.
It did. It went direct today, hence the timing. But we do still have the life during retrograde. But it was really a funny moment just because I mentioned it. And I was like, but we still can, you can't put life on hold. And then all these things happen. So here we are, and it's divine timing. So
it really is. Yeah, that's so true. It's all about divine timing. So if you've been a long-time listener of the podcast, and by long time, I mean since episode 1. We're only on episode 26, so it hasn't been that many. But if you've listened to previous episodes, I'm going through the fertility journey, and I would say, so it's been 6 years, and I think in year 4, I pretty much decided like I was going to be done with alcohol. The primary reason was, besides the fact that it's not going to help me get pregnant, the primary reason was I got really heavy into manifestation and the whole part of manifestation where you act as if. And I was like, okay, how can I embody a mom, a pregnant woman, even though I'm not currently? And I was like, all the things, like a pregnant woman doesn't drink, and just trying to like really put all of those daily habits that a mom or a pregnant woman would do into my routine so I could act as if. And so I did. I just stopped drinking. And on top of that, I was meeting with an integrative practitioner regularly. And she was like, you need to take dairy and gluten out of your diet, and you need to really limit alcohol. And so it just honestly, like, it all made sense. But the reason Hilary and I are going to talk about this is not necessarily because of the fertility journey, but I want to talk about it with you, Hilary, because I think there's a lot to be said in our rural part of the country around alcohol. I mean, and I'll let you speak to this and give your 2 cents on it, but like, I can't go to, like, we are the host when we have get-togethers with our friends, it's at our house. Like, everybody comes to our house. We've just always been the house that hosts the parties and the gatherings. And as the one that doesn't drink, it's like I had to get some NA options so I could still feel like I am a part of a party, which is so stupid. So yeah, that's the season I'm in. And like, I've been doing this for 2 years, but Yeah, I guess what is your 2 cents on that?
Oh gosh, I have a lot of sense on
I
that,
know,
but
I do too. I don't want to do all the talking, so I'm like, you go.
yeah, no. Well, so number one, I love your journey and your story with that, and I think it's
Yeah.
very important to speak that out into the universe. So, congratulations to you on that journey, and I love the act as if. That's super powerful behind that.
Yeah.
So for me, a little bit about like my kind of journey. I have not drank now, so it'll be about 3.5 years. So it was
Awesome.
March of 2021. My impetus for that was kind of, we were still waving through some of that COVID time. And, I never considered myself an alcoholic, but I found I was drinking way more, maybe like a more daily thing. Like, I'd have wine while I was cooking dinner, and then I'd eat dinner, and then I just like the taste of it and that. And I kind of felt like maybe I was consuming more than I wanted to be. And then you get tired and you're not present. And so, as I mentioned kind of in the first episodes, dreams are a lot. So I was getting a lot of dreams kind of coming to me about alcohol and maybe like quitting alcohol. Also, I have an uncle actually who lost his battle to alcoholism a year ago. So definitely have seen that in the ancestral line. And, then I decided I was really in kind of a heavy place. And I did a healing with a Native American woman named Eagle Woman. She's a shaman. She's in LA. And when you do a healing session with her, she calls, as most healers do, we are calling in the soul days prior, but she was very adamant that 3 days prior to the session and 3 days after the session, there was to be no alcohol consumed, no red meat, really just having a clear and pure vessel. Wow. So that was sort of my push. And so I was like, okay, and then after that, I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to do like a cleanse. Like I'm just going to go 30 days. 30 turned into 60, turned into 90, turned into like, okay, bye, Felicia. Like I don't need it anymore.
Wow.
Yeah. But a lot of my traumas in life, or a lot of wounding in my life, especially with the masculine, stem from alcohol. And I really had to kind of come into that shadow territory and sit with it. And that was a lot of the process. But yes, in rural Iowa, when I stopped drinking, I really felt it was interesting to me how many people would be like, oh, you're not drinking?
Yes. Oh my gosh, I hate it.
And I just would do the mocktail options. Honestly, that I felt much like smoking a cigarette, that like a lot of people who smoke, I don't smoke, but they say, it's that like hand to mouth motion.
Yeah.
I actually found the same to be true with alcohol. It was almost like it was just that glass to mouth motion that we get so accustomed to. And so kind of like just making up a kombucha with a splash of orange juice and putting it in a Cosmo glass is what I still do to this day.
Love that.
It is like oh, I'm having a cocktail, but it's not really. And it was an ability to transition away from alcohol a lot easier maybe than like say the cold turkey thing or this or that.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And so what I found now is I really had to step back and look, and I realized how much as a society, number one, how much alcohol is in our face in commercials and sports events, at concerts, everywhere, everything that we do in terms of entertainment, it functions around the premise of drinking. Yeah. And I also really had to look at it too. And I stepped back and I was like, gosh, we are numbing ourselves all the time.
Oh my gosh.
So why do we drink? We drink. Oh, like, oh yeah, I got a promotion. Let's go get a beer. Yeah. Oh, I got divorced. Let's go get drunk. So it's both emotions. It's the happy emotions and it's the sad emotions. Absolutely. Either way, when we weave alcohol into that, we take ourselves out of presence and from the true experience. And so we're not allowing ourselves to feel full joy or full sadness.
I agree. And I like that you brought up the word numbing, because when I was recently at the Powerhouse Women Conference, which before that obviously wasn't drinking, but being in Scottsdale, it was amazing. Every restaurant, they had their cocktail menu, and then they had mocktail pages for mocktails. And I'm like, we don't have that in the Midwest. How awesome is this? Like,
Yes.
you feel more normal, and it's sad that we don't have more of that here. But I digress. The conference, they actually had vendors. They had a bar, but they had vendors with mocktails with non-alcohol options. There's like Kinyu Forks, which is a popular one. And then I've always ordered online. I order Hio, and I used to order Moment. Those are both non-alcohol drinks that give you the natural high using like adaptogens, ashwagandha, things like that. But it really like opened my eyes up to more being there. And then they actually talked about how if we're living our best life, like if we're stepping up to the plate and we're up leveling and we're truly like, I'm here for it. I want to live. I'm growing into that next level version of me. Well, that version of you shouldn't need to numb her life, because if she's truly living authentically her best life, then she really shouldn't need to numb it, regardless of whether the drink tastes good or not. You shouldn't need to numb it. And that has really stuck with me, because you're right. That's what it is. Like, why do we need to numb our emotions? Why can't we just fully feel into those, like fully live into those emotions? And I think it's become such a habitual thing that people don't even look at it like that's what they're doing. Subconsciously they are, but they don't look at it consciously like that. You know what I'm saying?
Right, absolutely. And so it's like, I have no judgment against anybody who chooses to drink. That's your life and all that. I've chose not to. So it's sort of that reverse thing where I don't think that maybe I don't care anymore, that I don't see it. But I think there are a lot of people who do feel like really out of place as the non-drinker at the group, at the party, at the this or that. Like last night I was at a function for work, and everybody's drinking but me, and that's okay. And, and a lot of times I think I felt at first when most people didn't say anything, most people don't care. And to be honest, I would say now in my life, the majority of my friends don't drink at all. Nice. And I feel I have more of the non-drinking friends than I do the drinking friends.
Love
and that's also the energy of the people we surround ourselves with too, right? But even when I'm around my friends that do drink, I'm not making them feel bad for drinking, and they're not making me feel bad for not drinking. But so I think that we can honor that in somebody else. But I felt like at first the people who really seemed like I had all the questions about why or this or that. I was mirroring in them a habit or a thing that they're doing that they themselves are reflecting upon of, like maybe I need to cut back, or drinking makes me feel like shit. A lot of people they're fine. They don't get, really shit-faced and, pass out and it's blackout. It's not that, but it's the next day. It's like the anxiety all of a sudden. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm like edgy and I'm like irritable with my kids and this and that. There's drinking, there's a science behind how the body processes it all, right? And it affects everybody differently. And it's not necessarily like the moment of, there is the effects the days after, and that affects the mood, the brain, and so forth. And so I think I really was a mirror for a lot of people, as people are always mirrors for us in many ways.
Exactly. I agree. I initially had such a hard time not being judgmental towards people. And again, people are a mirror of ourselves, and I recognize now why that is. But it's also very telling to me when we are around a group where everybody but me is drinking, and there's always usually one person who loves to poke the bear and who loves to well, why aren't you drinking? Just have one. It's not going to hurt you. And I am always in the back of my mind, I'm like, I'm not judging you, but I wonder why you feel so strongly that I need to have one drink to make you feel good. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
I kind of look at those people a little differently. It's interesting that you need one, everybody in the room needs to be drinking or you feel uncomfortable.
I also love the, like, I don't know if you have this, Stephanie, but like the assumption, sort of like when people get divorced, everyone's like, oh, they got divorced because somebody cheated on them, right? You know, it's like always the assumption. And like some people will be like, oh, you're like, I don't drink. And they're like, well, why? Did you have like they'll assume that you have like an alcoholic, you went to rehab and all the things. And you're like, no, I didn't. I made the choice.
Or I've had that, but I've also, because everybody and their grandma knows that we're trying.
Well, right.
So many times this summer, we've been at a restaurant. The last 2 times have been in the last month where I've been like, what are your NA options? Like we were at a brewery and I'm like, what are your NA options? Are they gluten-free? And the waitress who knows me in front of this whole group was like, are you pregnant? And I'm like, okay, super inappropriate for you to ask that, first of all, just because I am asking for an NA. Like that just speaks to our culture, whatever. But yeah, you either have a problem because you're asking for an NA, or if you're of a childbearing age, you're pregnant. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? No.
Funny. That's so funny that you mentioned that, because I just had to go, on a work trip, and you go to dinner, and it's like that thing where the server is expecting you to order a drink.
Yeah.
But as a female, you feel like, oh, well, because I look like of childbearing age, and if I don't order one, they're just going to assume that I'm pregnant.
Yeah.
And it's going to be okay. So then what does the male in that situation do?
It's hard.
A little bit differently. I think there is more pressure than on the masculine or those that identify as that to drink.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, my husband has cut back significantly since we've been going through the fertility journey, but I just recognize, like I said, our house is the gathering house, and it has been since we've been together. And I just recognize, not just for him, but all the men in our friend group, like, the peer pressure is way harder, way heavier on them than it is us women. And that's sad to me too.
And why is that? Well, again, if we want to talk about that, like when we talk about emotions and masking that, the males do a way better job at that. And alcohol allows them to do that tenfold. Yes. Another thing I want to say too, Stephanie, is, when I had that 24 Karat Life workshop that you came to, I'll just never forget afterwards what you said to me, which was, it was so refreshing to go to an event or a workshop where, number one, like, it was like the non-alcoholic option was offered, but that the majority of the people there were not drinking. Yes. And I'm very cognizant of that when I have more event style parties, because I don't drink, right? So I'm always like, okay, I always make something, a signature cocktail. And if somebody wants to add alcohol into it, they can, and that's fine. But there's that option there for those that don't.
Yeah, and you make really good mocktails.
I got it down. I love it. I enjoy it. Yeah.
I do too. I have one of those giant like mason jar things with the little, whatever you call it at the bottom, where you can pour it out of.
Yeah, the spout
and
thing.
I just love the idea of like making a giant mocktail, and I just love that. That's my kind of a party.
Yeah. Well, my friend Melissa's a great barista. And like, so even just for my 40th, like they came up with signature cocktails, again, that 3 different signature cocktails. And then the other people there could choose to add an alcohol into it. But there's so many great things that you can do with lavender and herbs and honey.
Yes,
and, just like that tastes so good. And you're like, so if I like the taste of something, again, that's sometimes why people drink is like, I just really I enjoy the taste of wine, and I enjoy the taste of tequila or whatever it may be. And again, that's fine, but
And then another point about this that I think is important to note is at the conference, this was also brought up, ironically. I mean, there's no synchronicity that all of these things are being talked about right now, but they talked about how, like, one of the speakers actually asked the question of like, raise your hand if you've noticed since you've started your up-leveling journey or your glow-up journey, have you noticed that you've developed an aversion to alcohol? And like 75% of the room raised their hand. It was so refreshing, because I always, like I said last time, I'm way more woo-woo than I let on. But since giving it up, part of the reason was because one night I had 2 drinks and I was hungover for 2 to 3 days. I mean, it was ridiculous, and I was so mad at myself, but it was only 2 drinks, and they were gluten-free drinks, so it made no sense to me. And so I've always thought like, oh, it's because you're growing spiritually. It's because you're up leveling energetically. And it's just like alcohol. I listened to a podcast that talked about how like alcohol is at such a low frequency. And so as you raise your frequency, like it's just not gonna jive with you. Do you believe like that's part of why you don't drink as well? Or?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Alcohol is a depressant. It's extremely low vibrational.
Yep.
And when you start to up level and really come into your power and your light, your body is rejecting it. And it's rejecting it in the ways of the bad hangovers or the just feeling like crap and not liking the taste of it and all that stuff. And, you know, one of the things too that was really coming to me through that session with Eagle Woman and my sort of my journey after was like, not that you can't be an energy worker and have a drink, but if you are going to be when we do this work, we're a channel. And so our body needs to be a clean vessel, and that it comes with what you're putting into it in the terms of food, drink, etc. And so I had to think about it like, okay, well, if I go out on a Friday night and I even only have 2 drinks, but I want to do a healing session on a Saturday morning, is that the best for my client? Right. Am I coming in the best vibration? Same thing, even you as, say you went out on a Thursday night and you see clients on a Friday. Am I my best self? Am I offering you, I think, especially when you're in the realm of wellness, how we treat ourselves and our bodies and our minds and our souls reflect back to our clients. And if we aren't doing that, then we aren't servicing them the best.
Right. Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, I haven't even thought about it from that perspective, but I really like that. Yeah, because I feel like I always try to show up as my best self. And if I'm ever like off, it does impact my sessions. And
I mean, I have definitely had times, and this obviously has something to do with like drinking, but if there's times where I don't feel good, I reschedule. You have to honor that in yourself, and you have to, when you do this kind of work, you just really have to say like, how am I showing up for the person that's showing up here? And it's a lot. And not drinking has really been, what I found is I gained more time.
Yes.
So it's crazy to me. Again, I wasn't a full-blooded like alcoholic, but I can't explain to you, or maybe you resonate with it, but I just, all the time I got back. I think it was just that 1 or 2 glasses of wine made me foggy, made me cloudy. Instead, I replaced that with reading books, walking my dog, like snuggling my kid. The next morning, I got a full night's sleep. I woke up the next morning, I didn't have maybe a headache or this or that, and I could go about my day. And so that's what I found. I was like, wow, I got so much time back. I got time with self. It just opened so much for me and brought so much more into my life.
I agree. Time and better quality relationships, I feel like, is what I got out of giving up alcohol. It's like, when I think about those 5 people that I spend the most time with and who I end up being most like, I want them to be people that don't feel like they need alcohol and instead replace that with healthier habits. And healthier habits, not just because it doesn't sit well with you, but because you don't feel you need to numb your life, because you don't like how it makes you feel the next day maybe, but like primarily, I don't drink primarily because of the aversion. I drink mostly, I feel, because it's not what that next level version of me does. And when I think about those 5 people who I spend the most time with, I want that similar mindset for each of them. Yeah, I think this is a topic that I feel we could talk. So like, there's so many more rabbit holes I feel we could go down, but it's nice. First of all, this is a topic that I haven't really gotten to talk to many people about because I don't have. I feel like I'm still in that transition where like I have a decent amount of friends that still drink, which is fine. I have no problem with that. But I'm getting more friends that are more similar to me and that they don't value it. And I think a lot of it is because we're entrepreneurs, we're up leveling financially, emotionally, energetically, and it just doesn't sit well with us. And so it's been interesting to see the transition in my supports as this has become less of an important thing, I guess I would say. It's very interesting. Well, I guess before I wrap up, Hilary, is there any final caveats or anything else you want to share on the topic before we wrap things up?
I think the only final thing I would say is if alcohol is something that you've been considering, giving up, please reach out to either one of us. Happy to support you in that journey or talk through you, and what made and just like, when clients come to you, like, what's the root cause of my anxiety or my depression? Well, what is the root reason I'm drinking, and either one of us can help you in different ways to address the root causes behind your relationship with alcohol, and some of that's, again, that ancestral line, some of it's personal trauma, some of it's societal, whatever it might be. But please don't hesitate to reach out. Always happy to be that person, because like Stephanie said, there's probably less of us. I think it's transitioning and getting more and more, but happy to answer anything. So thank you for that. I've really enjoyed touching on this topic because it's a very important topic to me. Seeing a lot of people struggling with addiction in the last year that have gone to rehab, this and that. And I think it's a vibrational shift of our planet to the better, but
Yeah. I agree with what you said. So Hilary does a lot of the ancestral healing work. So and I do intergenerational trauma work. And so both of those things really complement each other. If you're wanting to really get to like the seed point of where this wound even started for you, Hilary would be a great resource. And if you're wanting to really dig into like your family genogram and finding out, it's just taking this problem and it's separating it from yourself. Like, this didn't start with you. It more than likely started down your family line. And that work is very powerful and healing. So both of us can support you in that. And I will say also, along the lines of what you mentioned, Hilary, if you are wanting more NA options, I will add the options I'm familiar with. I'll add them in the show notes. I know of about 4, and they're quality ones. I've tried all of them, but I'm definitely biased because I definitely prefer Kin Euphorics and Hyo. But I think they're all good. So I'll put all the options in the show notes as well. I actually think I'm going to start doing affiliate marketing with either Kin Euphorics or Hyo. So I need to get on the ball and get that started, but I think that would be great to be able to offer that at a discount for friends and clients, family members, whatnot. So, well, Hilary, thank you for coming on today. I'm super excited to record all of these with you, and I'm excited to just see what authentically comes up in conversation with you.
Thank you. I'm excited to just flow with you in these topics and see what Spirit wants to channel through with us and bring forward to your listeners. And I really, really appreciate this opportunity to use my voice in collaboration with yours.
Absolutely. Awesome. All right. Well, you guys, thanks so much for tuning in today. And I am excited for the rest of this month to see what comes out. Enjoy the rest of your week. And until next time, I will talk to you next week. Thank you so much for listening to us. It means so much to me. If there were any aha moments or anything that really resonated with you on today's episode, then please take a minute and share it on your social media and tag me so I can personally thank you. Also, if you could, please rate and review the podcast as it is new, and that really helps to get the word out there more and reach even more listeners. I'll catch you on the next episode.